You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy cannabis independence in Colorado.
Yeah.
So we took
This should be a new Black Friday. This should be like an annual thing.
Yeah.
Right?
So I'm sorry. I'm David Madalena, and with me as well always is the lovely Samantha Walsh.
Hi.
You're listening to the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. There may be quite a few listeners listening to us that haven't for a while, because a lot of people are looking at Colorado and anything that's going on here in Colorado. In the past.
I wonder
days.
why.
Gee, I wonder why. What's going on? Well, before we get into
Freedom,
what
that's
everybody
what's going
knows
on.
we're going to talk about today, how was your holiday, Sam?
It was good.
Yeah.
I got a little skiing in, snowboarding
yeah?
in.
Where'd you go skiing?
We went to Vail
Nice.
and Breckenridge. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, and
Stayed with Sean Hauser and Joe Legacy and
awesome.
hit the slopes up. It was really nice.
so anything exciting happening?
One, Joe actually hurt his. Kind of took a tumble.
Okay.
That was my fault. Just kidding. I took him on some black diamonds. He couldn't hang.
Gotcha.
No, it was a lot of fun. There's actually a really funny story. We were at Vail, and we took our afternoon break. Had some have a couple drinks, eat a little bit of lunch, go hit the slopes up again, and we're sitting down, and we're with it was me and Joe and Sean, and Sean's parents. They're from Texas, so they come up every year and go skiing. And they are huge cannabis fans. They're great. Her parents are amazing, and so we're just sitting there and around the fireplace, and I see the Vail Daily, and I just pick up circulars, newspapers, local newspapers anytime I'm somewhere, because I always want to see, is there a marijuana article? Is it what's going on? Because there's always something. Yesterday, the front post of the Denver Post had front page of the Denver Post had 9 stories.
Well, yeah, but there's a lot of stories to have.
Oh yeah, but now they have it's just so topical. Mm-hmm. So you always want to read and know what's going on. And so I happened to pick it up, and I turned to the letters section, and this was over a week ago, and I read this letter from this woman from New York who was just so mean. So and I just couldn't believe what I was reading. She was basically telling Vail Resort. Vail, that they have to choose between being a pot town, a cannabis town, or a resort that caters to the elite and the high class people of the world.
See, now I've heard about this letter. I haven't gotten to hear the actual letter.
I can read it real quick.
Is it vast?
Yeah. It's Dear Vail Resorts, let me explain to you why I will not be returning to this resort anytime in the near future, and will indicate to other families on online forums that they should decline to come to Vail as well. As you are aware, marijuana is now legal in Colorado. Can I get some applause?
Yeah, okay, yes, of course.
I have been visiting in Vail and Beaver Creek for many years now with my family and enjoyed all my years here with no real legal problems. We have a lot of memories here. Within the span of several days, my son and I were exposed. Dun, dun, dun. Exposed to numerous conversations on buses, gondolas, rides, and restaurants.
Conversations
related to recreational drug use. This is the problem. It wasn't about... she saw people smoking in public. It wasn't like a bunch of kids got on the shuttles.
You hear people talk about it, and because I hadn't gotten a chance to read the letter yet, and you hear people talking about it, and I was like, I thought she was complaining about smoking. She was complaining about people talking about smoking.
Yes, talking about recreational
cannabis. Like, you're not allowed to have this political conversation with my ears around you.
Yes.
Awesome. Please continue.
She said, within the span of 2 or 3 days, I've had at least 3 to 4 separate occasions in public areas where I had to specifically ask people to not talk about their drug use. People are obviously put off by my asking them to stop. I was furious to even be put in this situation. I mean, you know what annoys me? I hate it when people talk about the Raiders or the Chargers. Oh God, actually, you know what I really hate? People Steelers fans.
I know.
They're so annoying.
When the Super Bowl's coming, I was like, I'm so offended when they talk about the Super Bowl. It's like, really? You're offended by somebody having conversation? That's it. A conversation.
Yes.
And she wrote this to Vail Resorts as if Vail Resorts was responsible for what people could say or couldn't say.
And that made me annoyed as I was like, oh my God, what is just a priss? What is a big fucking stick in the mud, right?
Yes.
And then we get to this part where she says, the people who live this type of lifestyle can't afford to support resorts like Vail and that frankly cater to a demographic more like my own. And candidly, you don't get to be successful by engaging in this type of lifestyle.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, and I was so
That's
infuriated when
hysterical.
I was reading this, and I was just like,
Yeah,
I was
because
reading
Steve
it out
Jobs,
loud.
when he was alive, he couldn't afford to live the lifestyle she lives. No.
No.
Avid.
And definitely, like, the real people who support Vail are definitely not the people who work there. Definitely not the people who teach your children how to ski and snowboard. Definitely not, like, the waiters, the service industry. Definitely not people who buy pass after pass after pass after pass every year who live in Colorado. And they definitely are not people who smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
None of those people.
Yeah.
Definitely not. I can't believe what pass in, like, the mountain towns. It was, like, probably in 60%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm at
That's
64.
Wow. No, it's just not to be spoken of.
Just not to be
It's not to be
spoken of.
spoken of in her circles. Yeah, well, there's going to be a new class of the elite, and the new class of the elite of those that is the fact that there's going to be elite cannabis smokers as well. And maybe they'll just not allow you to their parties because you're a big downer. Because now they can actually, feel more comfortable publicly smoking when they come to Aspen for their ski trip or go to Vail. And, some of the parties that you might have thought you were special enough to be
Or
invited
that
to,
I think the
you're just
thing
not
that was
gonna get to go.
the most offensive is that people who live that kind of lifestyle,
That kind of lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle? It's not. I mean, it's funny because you always hear people say, "Oh, cannabis, it's a lifestyle." Yes, there is a cannabis lifestyle or culture, I would say. But like, just because I have cannabis doesn't change my actual lifestyle and the way I look at a lifestyle.
doesn't change your work ethic.
No.
That's a terrible stereotype. It doesn't change it doesn't make you a criminal. That's also a terrible stereotype. I've seen on a few Facebook pages like people grumbling about, oh, now there's going to become crime. And it's like, crime is not a circumstance.
No, there's going to be less crime. I mean, it's already statistically proven. There's going to be less crime. Because there's less people to arrest for random stupid things like drug offenses.
But people have to understand, crime is not a product of drug use. It's a product of circumstance and opportunity.
Yes.
And when people, and it's mostly a product of poverty.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of crime. It's like people need something, they want something, you made it unavailable to them, therefore they had to resort to criminal activity. And if you're talking about robberies, people are going to steal whether they're high or not, because that's a factor of being poor. People don't steal for drugs, they steal for money.
Well, I mean, when drugs are worth more money in the black market, of course they would steal for drugs. I mean, but that's the other thing is by legalizing this, we're going to actually eliminate more crime.
For sure.
The police actually have more time now to actually arrest dangerous criminals than by just writing up tickets for marijuana usage and, having to deal with putting people in jail and processing for that. Oh, and on top of that, we're actually making it much more racially even when it comes to criminal offenses. I'm not saying it's going to be even, but marijuana has been used so often to find us people of color or minorities when they happen to have a little bit of gram or so of cannabis on them. Next thing you know, they try to search them and they find they do whatever they can to arrest them for other reasons. So it's like we just took that element away. Just like there's a place in, I think it's Arizona, that now they did a test where they had little mini cameras on all of the police officers' hats or helmets or whatever they were wearing. And they noticed that the incidence of complaints about police brutality or abuse of their power went down by 90%. Just by doing this one little thing and say, oh, by the way, now you can't take advantage of people because we're watching you. Or now you can't take advantage of people because you can't use marijuana as an excuse to be able to search anybody.
Yeah.
So crime's going to go down, and I think you're going to find that the police have to focus on real shit.
I know. I wonder how disappointed all those people were that there weren't riots and
What did they expect? So I'm watching.
I know.
The
so
news
ridiculous.
on a loop, and they're and the scene is and wow, nothing happened, and it was just well, what did you think was going to happen? Charlie Brown, Representative Charlie Brown, was all worried that people were going to be smoke. It was going to be a huge smoke out. It was going to be like the 420 rally just everywhere, and it was no. We all are treating it like it's alcohol. People waited in 5 hours in line yesterday to be able to purchase legally.
Responsible use.
Yeah, and they could wait the next 5 to 20 minutes or whatever it took them to get to where they wanted to go to be able to enjoy the cannabis comfortably. They weren't doing it on their way to the cars. Like, I mean, what did they think? They were going to get junkies? Like, oh my God, I need my fix of cannabis right now. It's like it wasn't going to happen.
No.
And it's like it just shows so much ignorance. It was like I wasn't surprised. The media is surprised. And I'm not surprised by the media's reaction because they still can't treat cannabis maturely. They really can't. They still giggle about it like they're in second grade, and it's kind of hysterical.
I think actually there's been some growth. Like I look at the Denver Post. Like a year ago, you couldn't see a headline in the Denver Post without a horrible pun. High times in Colorado. Let's burn this one out. Let's joint committee hashes out marijuana implementation, whatever it is with these really terrible puns. They've now taken it seriously. They have a whole cannabis section.
Yes. Here's why they're taking it seriously, because now there's money in it.
Now there's but I think that's also part of it. It's also taking it a little. I think they're treating it more maturely now. I mean, I get it. Money's a factor, but
to an extent,
I'd rather have it treated maturely than.
To an extent, but a perfect, I was seeing some of the coverage on our party on New Year's Eve, and it was
oh yeah, everything was all about the smoking. And
it was all about the smoking. We were sitting there,
charity at all. Not one mention.
Nobody mentioned it was a charity. I was so pissed. I'm like, the whole point was this was a charity. This was a fundraiser. We wanted to create awareness of healing homes.
Every media person I talked to,
every one of us talked about it. Every one of us worked it in, and not one of them mentioned it.
No,
and honestly, I have to say, thank you
up.
very much for the coverage, but really, how dare shame on all of you guys for not actually doing
the
anything
Daily
that
Mail
could be
spelled
positive.
your name wrong, right?
Yeah.
Did you email them?
No, I do need to email them about it. They were very nice,
They're very
too.
quick about it usually when you do it,
I should email them about that. Medenka.
You should actually, change your name to Medenka.
Medenka?
Yeah. Medenka. I'm going to call you Medenka from now on.
Awesome. Well...
But yeah, that's all it was about. But whatever, I'm over it at this point.
Look, thank you for covering the event. I'm glad you give us a little publicity. But honestly, they didn't even mention the fundraiser.
No, that was annoying.
It was more about they talked about hey, it was a prohibition event, yada yada, and they tried to paint the scene, and then it was all about people were doing bong rips on the bar. There was not one bong present. There was a rig somebody did pull out, and I think they didn't know what they were talking about, so they called it a bong.
Yeah,
but it wasn't on the bar. We had an outdoor area that people could go to. And that was how it was said. We weren't trying to mix alcohol and cannabis usage that closely to each other. That wasn't the point.
Yeah, it was. It was the end of Prohibition, and it was having fun, and but it wasn't. Yeah, it was.
People were vaporizing inside, which is fine. Nobody had any issue with vape pens or something like that. But smoking was outside.
Oh my God, your puppy is snoring right now, Christian.
Was that a snore? I thought
Christian
my phone vibrated.
Christian brought his little freaking pit bull.
We
and
have
he's
to.
Can
we get a? We gotta
now.
get a picture
Will you
of this
zoom
cute
in on
puppy
him?
right there.
He's so cute. He's snoring right now.
He's snoring so loud. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Can we go on a break now? Because I want to hug the puppy.
Well, we actually are at that time for a break. So we'll be back in a minute. And we got to talk more about our New Year's party.
We're going to talk about all the new party.
And we got to talk about retail marijuana and yesterday and today. And it's still lines outside the doors
Still,
today.
I drove by Bud Med's in Edgewater today. And
I was just right by there. And Northern Lights in Edgewater. I was at Northern Lights yesterday, by the way, before we go to break. And I had about 100 magazines happen to be in the back of my car. And I was like, well, these people are sitting out here waiting and stuff. Let's give them something to read. So I started from the back of the line, and I didn't even make it to the front of the line with 100 magazines. And this was people in pairs usually grabbing them to read them together. So that tells me there was about 200 plus people in line, almost, just at Northern Lights at that time yesterday. And there's still a line. Maybe it's half as big today as it was yesterday, but still right there.
Yeah.
And Bud Med, the same thing. Their line was a little bit shorter, but it's still a line.
Yeah, it was shorter, but it was still a line.
Lines outside the door. Bud Med stayed open till midnight.
Because you can in Edgewater.
Because you can in Edgewater. And actually, they did. They stayed open later at Northern Lights for the same reason. They were like, well, we got to take care of these
because they can.
people.
I know.
This dog is too damn cute.
All right, let's go on our break.
All right. We'll be right back in a minute. We're going to talk about retail marijuana. First 2 days of legal cannabis.
Call Connoisseur at 1-800-420-5757 for all your insurance needs. Connoisseur understands the risks you face each day, and we are there to protect your business and your investment. Since 2010, Connoisseur has been serving the cannabis industry nationwide. Call Connoisseur at 1-800-420-5757 or visit us on the web at connoisseur.com to learn more about our insurance and risk management services. Proud member of the NCIA.
The law offices of Edson, Maiden, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
All right, we are back. And, hey, anybody want to place a call in, you know the number is right on the screen. We'd be happy to hear anybody's thoughts on legal cannabis. We do have a number on the screen.
Oh, that's great. Come here,
we'd love to hear your thoughts on what this means for Colorado, the rest of the country, possibly even the rest of the world with legalizing cannabis and what we've seen in the past 2 days. The sky has not fallen. Cannabis is legal in Colorado, and we're all still standing here. It's amazing. So many people were worried. Kind of like gay marriage. It's like, oh my God, society hasn't collapsed. So did you go out and about on the 1st and check out some stores?
Yes. Well, after our party.
After our
fundraiser.
A little recovery time was needed.
I probably got home at like 3:30, which was not smart.
Yeah, I got home at like 4 something. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I only got like 2 hours of sleep.
Yep.
And then I had to be up at 6 to get to 3D.
So you actually witnessed the first sale.
Yes, we were there. We were there, and it was great. And I was probably like the fifth to go purchase something.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
You did purchase.
Oh yeah.
Did you?
No, I just want to have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris has a question.
So the person that waited all night to be the first person wasn't the first person?
No, the person that waited all night to be the first person was
They
not.
had like.
Were you like a special? Were you like a VIP?
Okay,
I
so
was like a VIP.
But see, you remember we're talking about one dispensary. So Sean Azarati, the PR first person was Sean Azarati. I don't know if he was actually the first person. Like, I mean, other dispensaries opened at the same time.
I think he was right at 8. I mean,
other dispensaries were open,
of course,
but he was the official. Like, this is the one that we're calling the official as an honorary first purchase.
Yeah,
but yeah,
of
there were people that had camped out since 2 a.m. at outside Evergreen Apothecary to be the first there. And I mean, there was people. I mean, that was the thing is we finished our party, and there were people that were leaving our party. And I talked to them from
Kim Sidwell went straight from,
and they went straight there to wait in line to a dispensary.
Yeah.
And they probably,
Well, there was first of all, the media was offered also a first opportunity because they had a private, not private, but they let certain people in to wit for the press part of Sean Azarati's purchase.
Right. I think they should have let them open at midnight.
Like Black Friday. Oh.
No, they should. I mean, I think it would have been nice, just right there. There would have been a line there. Of course, we would have had less people at our party probably.
Regulations.
You can be open till midnight, so.
Only in Edgewater.
Only in Edgewater.
But it wasn't technically January 1st yet.
That's true.
So you would have run into
You're right.
It's a political. The puppy fell off my lap. He didn't fall. He jumped. He's so cute. So then we went there, and then we headed over to Medicine Man. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of the Denver City Council there, some legislators, executives and administrators from Department of Med were there, Department of Revenue Meds, Marijuana Enforcement Division. I think Barbara Broll and Louis Koski and a few of those people, and which is good because then they got to see that everything was fine. It's just people hanging out, waiting in line very patiently.
Very patiently.
Very patiently. I mean, what were they expecting? And then I just think it's funny. We we as a society celebrate things like Black Friday, where people elbow and cram and fight for, cheap pieces of electronic hardware. And then here were a bunch of people standing in line peacefully, willing to pay. In some cases, they felt overpriced, but that's the realities of economics.
You
when
know
you have
what?
high demand, high demand.
Hey, when you want to be one of the first to buy a new iPhone, you pay more.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
If these guys want to be one of the first, that's great. All power to them. I'm like, go for it. But you need to recognize you're going to pay more right now.
Oh yeah, because it's. Yeah. You want to get the first. You want to be the first. Yeah, you pay more for the iPhone. You wait like 6 months. You can buy it cheaper.
Yeah.
But I totally agree. And so it was just funny, and then have them all be surprised that there wasn't like mass riots in the street or something. Like,
I just love that. What did they expect? That's the thing that cracks me up the whole time. It's like, oh, nothing happened. Well, duh.
And then we went over to Bud Med and saw Brooke's place. She was doing great. And
did the tour bus come by?
Yeah, we actually happened to show up right as like the huge tour buses were there.
What happened with the tour bus? Did they end up having to wait in line, or did they get to cut?
They got to cut, I think. But I think it's because they prearranged it. Like, we're going to come at this time.
Were people kind of like, oh, well, lucky them?
No, I think everybody's fine. I mean, like, again, people were like, it's an agreement between, I think, the dispensaries and the tours and these people. It's like visiting a vineyard,
Yep. You got to go right up to the front.
Yeah, but you're also like, they're also paying like a little bit, I'm sure, like probably a VIP ticket pass. It's like when you're at the water park.
Well, it was more of a press one the first time.
That too. Well, that was the press and
we should talk about that. Those guys as well. My 420 Tours want to throw a Cannabition party.
Yeah.
And Cannabition was going to be on January 1st, and instead of them throwing the party, they tried to be really like they wanted to talk to the city council, and they wanted to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a private event. It's going to be smoking. Can you please define private for us? And the city council didn't really define private for them, and they asked for that. And instead, what happened was they got closed out of one venue, which was City Hall, and then they bumped it to NORAD, and they did a great job of scrambling and finding NORAD. And then like the Friday before New Year's, last Friday basically, they got a letter at NORAD saying, you need to shut this down. We will make arrests if people are smoking on site. And it was like, well, I mean, this is one of those kind of cases where we didn't get shut down because maybe it's like, hey, I'd rather beg for forgiveness and ask for permission kind of deal.
Right. Well, I think it's also the way, and I'd have to look at it a little bit more. I think it's the way they were advertising it.
Mm-hmm.
And
because we didn't advertise as a smoking event or anything like that. They did, and that's you're going to get more people when you advertise it as a smoking event just by saying that. We just kind of feel like it's inferred that people will be smoking at our events. That's the way we looked at it.
Right, and I don't know. NORAD doesn't really have like a private outdoor balcony area, which even if you're smoking cigarettes, like. You can't smoke cigarettes inside.
Well, exactly. And that's
which
my
is part of the
too.
Clean Indoor Act, and that's part of like if you have a liquor license, that's part of like the agreement you make when you own a liquor license. Yeah. Castleman's has a patio area. We were able to tent it off a little bit, and so I mean, I don't know. I think it is part of it. Like everyone like was freaking out about it, and I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot of places like there was a Denver Post article where they talked about Cervantes and. All these other places that have had this going on for years.
It's been going on for years before medical. I mean,
Herman's
it just happens.
Hideaway was talking about.
It happens where people would, of course, is it more common now? Do people feel a little bit more comfortable about doing it? Yeah, but I remember when I was in high school, which was a long time ago, going to concerts at the Worcester Centrum, for those of you from Boston, and people would just pass around, a joint, and that's one of the first experiences I had of smelling one.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we definitely need places for people to go.
We do need places for people to go.
We need places. There needs to be some sort of private, non-pub place for people to go. I mean, you can't expect everyone to have, especially 50% about is what they're estimating. We're out of state people.
Oh, yeah, because I did. As I was passing out the magazines, I was like, where are you guys from? Where are you guys from? People were like, I drove all the way from here. I drove from here. I drove from here.
Yeah.
These people were all from,
These people without, a private residence to go smoke in or to go, enjoy their cannabis product in. And so there needs to be something. So I think that, honestly, I think it just needs to be treated a little bit like cigarettes, a little bit like alcohol. Make sure that it's a venue that's 21 and over only. And that, and if it's something maybe you just allow it. I don't know. Pueblo has something. I mean, Pueblo's already addressed this. They have it so I think you apply for like a second kind of license. So it's kind of like being a smoking bar, you know?
Well, and Colorado Springs has kind of allowed it in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't stopped it because they say, well, you're private. They define it as a private thing when it's a club, and they say, well, you can do whatever you want in a private club as long as you're not breaking state laws. I mean, obviously, you're saying state laws in this situation.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me that Denver's not allowing it. It really is because, and again, they're gonna have to. This is the thing. This is a temporary, in my opinion, it's temporary because if it's not temporary, they really have their heads up their butts because there's got to be a place for tourists to go.
Yeah.
There's going to be too many out-of-state people.
Nobody's saying that like you have to like. I don't think people should be saying you have to. It shouldn't be like a bar where you sell marijuana.
No,
but it should be a place where you can be able to like get a beer, smoke a J on the porch.
Well, I think you should, but mixing alcohol is going to probably not happen right away.
Why not?
Why not? Well,
I think it will happen right away.
Here's the reason why and again, it's not that I think it can't be mixed. Absolutely, it can be mixed. I think what I'm worried about in the first year or two stages of this, cannabis independence, is we mix alcohol with cannabis. People get really messed up because of the alcohol, and people blame the cannabis. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm not. Look, let's just kind of ease our way into this. All right, this is freedom. This freedom, we're still popping the cherry. This freedom,
David,
we need to lube it up a little bit before we kind of break it wide open. All right.
The research shows from everybody who's like crunched the numbers on this that it actually you don't drink more. I'm serious. The people who've crunched the numbers on this that it's not that marijuana acts as more of a replacement. And so instead of somebody having like 5 beers, they probably have 2 beers and then smoke a J, and they're fine.
Yes.
And we all know that places where medical marijuana has been legalized, traffic fatalities have gone down.
Yes.
So, that's why I'm saying I don't think it's that much of a problem because what happens is people end up not getting as hammered.
I get it. I agree with you. I'm just saying I do feel like we need to be a little cautious as to how we incorporate this right now because everybody's watching Colorado right now. And I think we need to... I
hate that phrase.
What?
The whole world is watching us.
But
That's my drinking phrase. Hand me a shot.
But they are. I mean, whether you can like that phrase or not.
So do it right. So do it the way that makes sense. Like instead of like being... I mean, I get it. I'm a pragmatist in politics as well. But I think when you're too pearl clutching about it, you look ridiculous. People
I don't
just
think we're being
laugh at you.
pearl. I don't think I'm being pearl clutching.
I think in some areas there have been, obviously. I mean, I know it's not perfect, but I'm just saying, like,
But again, it's more about my concern about the alcohol than it is about the cannabis at all. I'm not concerned about the cannabis at all. I'm just concerned by mixing the two. Alcohol.
I think having a place where you're going just to smoke, I don't know. I just don't know if that would be as enjoyable if you can also have like a beer or a glass of wine, or at least have the option. I don't know.
I agree with you. I would rather have that option. I mean, and again, I had 1 beer last night, and a lot of people at this, we had a premium bar, there weren't a lot of drunk people at the bar.
Yeah.
There really weren't. And usually if you do a New Year's Eve top shelf open bar, any open bar, I mean, the people are loaded. And there was like, I maybe counted like 5 out of everybody there. And it was, I mean, and one of them's right.
I was one of them. I knew you were going to say that.
Totally.
You're so mean to me.
I know.
I had an Uber.
What?
I had an Uber all day, so it was fine.
You did have an Uber all day.
Yes.
But look, it just like studies. Anytime they do a study, I guess this is my analogy. When you do a study on like, oh, well, this is why cannabis usage is bad for pregnant women because all these women had stillbirths because they were pregnant and they had cannabis in their system. Oh, and then you find out, well, they also were doing heroin, but we didn't mention that part when we said that. So, and that's what I'm saying in this situation is they're going to say, oh, look at all these DUIs we have.
There has actually been like some data correlation where they said, oh, like, yes, traffic fatalities have gone down, but people testing positive for marijuana has increased like this astronomical number. It was like 100%, 115% or something. Mm-hmm. But they also say this is the first time they've ever really started testing for it. So, of course, it's going to be. Or, like, if it's just – this was the problem like we talked about a couple weeks ago with that Denver Post story when they talked about use in teens going up, and it's like – in marijuana use. But they didn't – they also failed to mention that like drug use stayed the same. It's just the reporting is different. That's all. It's just new reporting, and so you're going to see an increase. But, and that's kind of like a bummer that we're going to have to fight.
Yeah. Well, we have to go on a break, and then we'll come back and, we'll talk a little bit more about the party. We got to talk definitely a little bit more about, Independence Month. Let's just call it month, because one day is just not enough for cannabis independence. It really isn't. So we'll be back.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On Grass. Runongrass.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
National Cannabis Industry Association would like to thank its members who represent the leading professional businesses in America's emerging legal cannabis market. NCIA is the only organization that has unified legitimate cannabis business across the nation to fight for real reform in Washington, D.C. For more information or to make your business a member, visit us online at thecannabisindustry.org.
I was like, you should totally do that.
All right, we're back. Oh, thanks for the heads up on that.
God, yeah, he's so enamored with his puppies.
Well, he takes 2 weeks off. Yeah, we're talking about a goofy story here. But so, anything else that you guys have heard interesting on this front, on the legalization side, that these guys that they've been saying out there? Because I've just been laughing about the surprise that nothing bad has happened.
You still see the biggest prohibition cry now is of course it's always thinking children, but it's like we're just so worried about teen use going up. And I mean, at the end of the day, doesn't this come down to, I don't know, a parenting issue? Let me tell you about parenting, okay? So after yesterday, we went to Medicine Man, then we went to Bud Meds. I was so tired. I got 2 hours of sleep. It was emotional. It was a very emotional day. It was just, you got to see people standing in line waiting hours to do something that normally they are relegated to having to do in the back alleys, in the dark, illegally, put their livelihoods, their families, their jobs at risk. To do what? To do something that we all know 15% of adults do anyways, that adults are doing all the time. It's like now they can just do it legally. They can do it in the sunshine. They can do it at well-regulated, licensed, clean establishments. They have a variety now to choose from. And instead of being my dealer's only got this strain in and I have to buy it 2 ounces at a time.
Oh, yeah, and then I have to listen to his whole story and conspiracy.
Yeah, and then I get,
before I can even go
and
out.
he's going to make me play Xbox with him for an hour. They can come in, they can buy a candy bar, they can get, some indica, some sativa, like a gram at a time. And, and they get to do it and it's freedom. Right?
Well, yeah, and eventually they'll be able to do it quickly.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Whatever. If it takes time, it takes time. And again, I think that's not even more indicative that this is how seriously people take this and how important it was to them, that no one got irritated, no one was getting cranky and crabby, because this isn't an entitlement for these people. This is they're so thankful now to have this kind of freedom and to just be able to do this. You're not going to see that the crankiness or the bitterness. The bitterness is coming from the losers. The people who get money off of treating people for bullshit drug abuse and who get money off of throwing people in jail. That's where you hear all the bitterness from. Mm-hmm. The
Good.
squares.
I'm glad. I love seeing them being bitter
squares.
about it. I do. I love it.
And
they're just sore losers, man.
But and it's
no one loves a sore. No one likes a sore loser.
No, and it's a very emotional day. And finally, I go home. I was on a marijuana tour as well. But this was more of a private one we could do, it wasn't where they set the tour. It was more private. But, so we were doing that service and, finally I'm just I went home and I had to go pick up my son and I was and he was staying at a friend's house in North Glen, with some friends and celebrating the New Year with some kids and a good friend of mine. And so I go pick him up. And I'm like, I'm going to do something amazing real quick. So we drive over to Botanicare, where I knew the line would be huge, which was because I think that's the only legal shop right now in
downtown
in North Glen.
North Glen. Sorry.
Yeah. And I explained to him, I'm like, I just want you to see something that you're going to remember for the rest of your life, which is see all these adults standing here, see all these people, like, these are people who would normally, like, go to jail. They would lose their families. Like, they would lose their lives for years, you know? Just the money alone to fight, like, court fees is insane.
Yep.
And now they get to do this legally, and this is what your mommy hopes people do. Like, this is what it's like, I lobby for this. I lobby on behalf, and I'm like, he's going to remember this. Like, could you imagine, like, witnessing something like this in the 30s, and hopefully this will, like, impact him, and he'll understand, like, wow, this is a historic moment. And it is.
It is. It's a historic moment. I mean, and honestly, to him, how old is he right now again?
He's 8.
He's 8.
And you know what he said to me?
What?
He goes, and he's like, yeah, I get it, Mom. And only for adults, right? And I said, yep. Only for adults. That's how easy parenting
was hard.
is. That was so hard, and at the end of the day, it comes down to parenting. If you don't want to see use go up, talk to your child.
Talk to your child. You know what? All of you moms and dads out there that are so worried about the kids and marijuana, that you go out and you create a foundation, you spend hours and hours on lobbying against it, shut up and talk to your kids. Honestly, I mean, spend the time it takes to talk to your kids, which is actually less time than you're spending at the state capitol trying to legislate other people's lives, and spend it with your kids.
Yes. And this reaches beyond cannabis. It's alcohol. It's safe sex.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think you're going to stop kids from having sex by banning condoms? No. In fact, I think Texas tried that, and what happened was teen pregnancy rates skyrocket.
Oh no, yeah, that's what you can't. Statistics don't lie. Well, the statistician can lie.
Yeah.
Yes, but like when you look at those overall numbers, they can be misinterpreted. But the actual numbers don't lie. I should say, if
the numbers don't lie. And it's just the most common sense. It's for all the conservatives out there that are freaking out, I've seen a few of them. Oh, this is going to ruin our state. You're the party of personal responsibility. You're the party of the nuclear family. This is right up your alley. Yeah. This is encouraging families to teach their children about what you can do as an adult and what is expected of you as a kid.
Yeah.
Whether it's guns, whether it's cannabis, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, whether it's fast food, whether it's and finances. You have you're the parent. You teach your children how to do things responsibly. You're not supposed to abuse credit cards, otherwise it'll ruin your life.
Yeah.
You shouldn't abuse drugs. It will fuck up your life. You shouldn't abuse alcohol. It'll fuck up your life. You shouldn't abuse other people. It'll mess up your life. All it is about personal responsibility and teaching your children that. And then guess what? Teen use will probably go down.
Yeah.
Because you're taking the novelty, you're taking the risque away from it. Like, to me, this is a parenting issue.
Yeah.
This is not a legality issue. This is not a legality issue. This is a parenting issue. Yeah. And, and I'm actually proud to stand up for that. And I think that's something we need to talk about more. That this is, like, because that's the new argument is now teen use. Harm reduction is the biggest one.
We actually have a post that was done. We posted from this woman who wrote as a mom, and she wrote it as anonymous, called "I'm stoned and I'm a mom," or "I'm a mom and I'm stoned right now." I think is how she said it, and it's great. It's a few days ago on our Facebook, but we got a lot of comments. We got like 15,000 plus hits already on this. And we're actually thinking about putting it in the magazine too, talking with her about it. But she basically said that utilizing cannabis makes her a better mom. Because she points at a story where she had all these other things to do and she had all this stuff to do and she kept thinking about all these things, but none of them were really that important from my memory. And then she, her kid wanted to play and she had just kind of had a puff, and then she came out and she played with her kid, and she was never more engrossed with playing with her kid and spending really quality time with her kid than when she actually got high.
It's kind of true.
Well, yeah,
it is very true.
But like, think about it. And she said in that context, it makes her a better mom. I mean, like, she's a responsible mom. She talked about all this, and it was a really great little well-written story. It was just like kind of a day in the life for her.
Yeah.
But hey, if that's what makes you, I'm a better dad to my dog. I know if I'm like hanging out with my dog and I'm medicated at the time, I spend way more time like really focused on him.
You don't have to say medicated anymore, David.
I know you don't.
You just say it.
I don't have to
relax.
say it. I just like saying
I know, but now you don't have to say it anymore.
Now it's more the hip thing. It's like medication.
Eh.
You want to go back to just saying
I think
I'm
it's more
high.
blasé. Hell yeah. Don't
Yeah,
hide
back
from
to
it.
I'm not hiding anything.
Buzzed, drunk. I mean,
Buzzed,
like, you
drunk,
wouldn't say
stoned.
I'm medicated.
No, but
if
I don't
you're
like the
drinking.
idea because honestly, I feel like it just needs to be something different because you say high, you say stoned, people automatically think that you're not functional.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe
I
we
think
should come
that's-
up with a new term.
I think we should come up with a new term. So if anybody wants to throw a new term at us, I mean, what can be the new term for being legally high, but without detracting from the fact that you can still be functional?
I would almost say, like, I'm balanced at that point. Ooh. I mean, like, everyone I talk to always talks about how cannabis...
Tranquila.
Whatever it is.
Tranquila.
Yeah.
I didn't say that right, did I? Tranquilo.
No. Whenever you talk to people, whether it's like the indicas or the sativas that help balance them out, but that's what they say. They're like, I can't, the sativas, it helps me focus. It helps me do this, gives me energy. Or the people who are like very anxious naturally and they're like, oh no, I need the indica because it makes me
mellow.
It decreases my social anxiety. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, I think it just balances you out.
Yeah.
So maybe balanced is the word.
I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's at the end of the day, it's a parenting thing, and it's a cultural thing, and it's a social thing. And I found there's an article I read the other day that talked about the scientific breakdown of a hangover. And I can open up my Facebook page right now. Well, right now it's all filled with marijuana stuff. But like, when if I were to like exclude my Facebook feed to colleague, like all my old high school friends, all like my college buddies are the same age as me, women with families. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would see posts I see so many like, oh, it's wine o'clock. The big like, oh, wine, I need wine to unwind.
And then some of do any of them judge you on the cannabis side?
No, I don't think so.
None of your
friends. I hope not. If they do, I'm sure they don't unfriend me. But, but if I were to post that, like, I probably would get judged a lot, I mean, so people have no problem with moms making a joke out of like, oh, I need a glass of wine because I'm a parent, and all that stuff, or the long end of a long day. Like,
well, then we need to change that, don't we?
Yeah, but that's part of it. And then, and just think about it. I'll say this. If you drink, mm-hmm. The reason you get like a really bad headache in the morning is because your brain gets deprived of your organs get deprived of like oxygen, and so what they do is they take it from the brain, and then your brain shrinks because it gets dehydrated and deprived of blood, and so that's why you get the headache, because your brain is actually physically shrinking a little bit, before it becomes normal again. That's why people have pounding headaches, and I'm like, mm-hmm. And I'm never the most pleasant person when I have a pounding headache. I don't know if you are, and I'll tell you this: I've never had a hangover from marijuana. But I've had plenty of hangovers from alcohol.
Well, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of, there's the Moms for Marijuana movement, and, Cheryl Schumann is always out there saying, look, I'm a better mom because I'm high, and I agree with that, like, statement to get it out there and kind of get people to kind of mess around with that statement, and the mom who wrote on our Facebook page did the same thing, and it's like, I'm not saying that we want to go out and then push, hey, moms, get high, but I think it makes more sense to, like, actually knowing what we know about cannabis to actually say, hey, yeah, I'm going to smoke a joint and hang out with my kids for a minute.
Listen, I know moms who take Xanax. I know moms who drink wine. Mm-hmm. I know moms
Mother's Little Helper.
I know moms who run for 4 hours a day. I know, like, whatever it is
you need to do.
I know moms who go and get spas and manicures all the time. Like, whatever it is, like, that makes you not go crazy and makes you like be an involved parent, like you shouldn't judge how it gets done as long as you're not like, are you
keeping that child safe? Are you keeping them healthy?
Exactly.
Are they happy? Are they well adjusted? I mean, whatever you have to do to get them to that point, then that's what you do. That's how you be a parent.
Yeah. So,
but I'm pretty sure it doesn't happen by spending hours upon hours legislating against other people's freedoms.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's not how you become a good parent.
Those ladies are so crazy. They're crazy. I was just thinking about the other day. I was like, oh, those women are crazy.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. They need a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they probably need a little something more than that.
They need a joint.
No, they definitely do. So what do you think is going to happen over the next month and a half or so? I mean,
I think
how soon before these guys run out? before. Well, here's what I think is going to happen. Honestly, I know I just asked you a question. I'm answering my own question. I mean, like I think that like these first centers might actually go dry. They might have to buy some wholesale. For a minute for the next couple months. But there's going to be other ones that are going to be popping up and opening, so they can hopefully pick up some of that slack. So, but we're still going to see. I think we're going to see lines for a while. I think we are. I think we're going to definitely see lines over the next week.
Oh yeah.
And
it's a novelty thing, but it is, and I think. How long is the iPhone sold out for? I know, like, every time an iPhone comes out, and I'm not a Mac person because I actually, have a self-esteem.
I've never heard that argument before.
I'm kidding. I don't know. You Apple people are kind of brand whores, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yes. Some of
I
us.
actually like my Mac. I don't have a Mac phone, though, anymore, and I am thinking about leaving them. But at the same point, I always have viruses and issues with anything that's not a Mac.
Oh, jeez. That's such a lot.
I know. Phones I can live without, actually. The phone I can live without. I'm not an iPhone whore at all.
iPhone whores, but still, there's a lot of you out there, and I don't know, but from what I hear, apparently, you have to order them because they're never in stock at the Apple store. That's crazy. So it's a demand thing. And I think yesterday we saw that there's definitely a demand there. There was a lot of people poo-pooing that, you're not going to raise the revenue because the demand's not going to be there. You're overestimating. No, yeah. I think that there's definitely a demand there. I think that once more supply comes online, which means more Denver stops screwing around and slow rolling these licenses and, get serious. And then in October, when new entrants are allowed to come into the market and vertical integration goes away, and then it's a wholesale battle, I think you're going to start seeing a better quality product out there because, you'll probably see a surge a little bit, but it also, in price, maybe a little bit in October, but maybe it won't. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Mm-hmm. Because people are going to be then you get the Connoisseur stuff's going to come out, and it's going to be craft brew battle, basically.
Well, that's what I hope. And somebody mentioned that last night to me. Not last night at the party, and they were saying, I really hope Colorado becomes known as a craft, just a craft state. We have craft beer, we're known for that, and have craft cannabis. And I was like, well, I think we're gonna. I think the cannabis industry is already like that anyway. It's just inherently a connoisseur.
Part of it has to be some of these dispensaries have to meet such a high demand that some of the quality
you're going to have to churn. The quality is going to go down a little bit on that level.
I think once this wholesale market opens up and the vertical integration goes away and people are allowed to then it becomes who really can grow really quality weed, and that's the strain I'm going for, and this place grows it the best. And this grower grows it the best.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. Look, but again, if you're from out of state, even what we might consider low grade here is going to be a better quality than you're probably used to for the most part. Unless you want to have one of those rare black market growers that is, and they are out there that can really grow.
But I think even those people will be, because that product will become known and then they'll get hired on.
Yeah.
Hopefully. We have to work on getting people's records expunged and cleaning up.
Well, I would like to see the whole felony thing to be to work in the industry.
Oh, that's a huge thing. Away. It's got to go away.
It's got to go. I'm sorry. You can have a felony and be a senator.
That's awesome.
But yet you can't sell cannabis.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's crazy to me is to pass a background check in the cannabis industry, you actually have a higher you've cleared more hurdles than it is to be a politician.
I know. Yeah, that's something we've got to get rid of. It's got to be treating it like any kind of other industry. And I think liquor licenses there's still a good character thing to own a liquor license.
There is. But I think you can actually have a felony.
But I don't think there is for brewing beer.
It's casino thing.
Yeah.
It's that's what right now it's similar to a casino license.
Yeah.
They pretty much took casino licenses and did
Yeah,
that.
they did. And so, hopefully it'll get to that point. I'm just excited for more states to come online.
I am excited for more states to come online, but they can take a couple years and let Colorado kind of take over for a minute. That's all right. I'm okay with that.
No, the quicker freedom arrives, the better.
No, I agree. The quicker freedom arrives.
And then we can be.
But they have to get the systems in place the right way.
That's true.
That's the thing. You just can't rush into this kind of regulatory system. It did take us time.
I agree, but that will help push Colorado towards becoming more of a boutique market and craft market when other states come online, because then they don't because there's a lot of demand out there.
There's a lot of demand. Well, and you said earlier 15% of people admit to smoking marijuana. That's what admit.
That's about average, yeah.
Admit though, and I think you're going to find out they're going to say, "Oh, cannabis usage is up," and it's well, is it that higher up,
or
is
people
it just
now
more
okay
people
to
are
now?
more okay to say
Oh
it?
yeah, and that's a huge thing too, because even like in surveys, people aren't honest because it's like I'm going to admit you're admitting you're a criminal.
No, now what I would like to see, and all of those activists out there that say they've done a lot but haven't really done a lot to push a lot of legislation through. If you
the Facebook warriors.
You want to spend some time off of Facebook, or spend time being an activist on Facebook instead of judging other people's efforts, and maybe go out there and go after letting people who are nonviolent drug offenders here in Colorado get out of jail. Why don't we work on that?
Yeah,
let's
that's a big
focus
one.
some attention on that instead of not the fact that we're not throwing the party that you want us to throw.
I know. Another big one I see is I've seen a lot of people bitch about price or public consumption, and I'm like, man, I was at every single public consumption hearing. I did not see your face there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they just wanted things to happen out of sheer will.
Yeah.
They just, and like things should just be the way they wanted. They didn't like put any effort into actually making it happen.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that do that, and
But it'll eventually, like, honestly, the funny thing is like when people talk about public consumption and all that stuff, I sort of like shrug. Like, it came up when we were talking about Greenwood Village and how they have that ridiculous law that like
They do
you
have
can't
a
even like
ridiculous law.
drive on their streets with marijuana in your car.
Yeah, but they didn't pass that, did they? They didn't get that
It was
passed.
something.
They worked on it, but
it was some kind of possession.
can't-
It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
it was like step on the sidewalk and all of a sudden you're in trouble.
I think they do actually have it as like an ordinance. It's so silly, but to me, it's just like any sort of puritanical blue book law. We see them all the time. There's the most ridiculous things that just aren't enforced. And I think it's just that, like, it's more of a perspective thing. And I think in the long run, like, public consent, like, the Denver police even admitted, like, we can't enforce this. This would be the lowest priority ever. And so we need to focus on bigger things that are actually a public safety risk, which is banking.
Banking.
I know.
Well, it is a big deal,
hours
but
of
like,
operation.
there really does, in my opinion, need to be a commission of people out there who are looking at like, okay, how are we going to let these people who are in jail for like 10, 15, 20 years for nonviolent offenses of
There's got to be
cannabis?
pardons.
We got to get these guys out.
Pardons.
Yeah.
At the very minimum, getting people out of jail. Yeah, expedited release would be nice.
Yeah,
Pardons
I mean,
has
but
to be
there's going to
biggest.
have to be something. We're going to have to, find some way to get them, jobs or place. I mean, that is a lot of people. That's a difficult thing to do at this time, but we got to figure it out. And it's honestly, it's a mess. I'd be looking forward to them working out because they need to be out of jail. I mean, people are getting out of jail for getting away with murder, and yet people are still spending 55 years to life in prison. What's that? Oh, yeah, exactly. I had to say last time, running over 4 kids and then getting out of jail because they were too rich, literally too rich to understand the consequences. And yet people who were smoking a joint are taken away from their kids and have their kids. You heard about that one, too.
Yeah.
And they put this child in the foster care because this guy was smoking a joint. They took his kid away, put him in foster care, and then the foster parents killed the kid.
Ugh.
So thanks for keeping her safe from that dangerous cannabis using father, really.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit on a depressing note.
Yeah, what
it
the hell,
is. I
David?
know. I'm sorry. I just get upset about these things,
Yesterday was
man.
Freedom Day. And
It
you're
is still
ruining
Freedom Day.
it with
No,
your
well, because
Eeyore
there's still a lot to do. I think that's the
attitude.
thing that my attitude is on this. Is like there's still a lot to do. It's great that we have this freedom. Those of us who are not in jail, it's great that there's that freedom. But now, okay, there's still the question, and I will say that the media has brought this up. A CNN on the Legal Point they were talking about this. Look, you can still get fired for smoking cannabis.
Yeah, that's a big one too. And
so how do we,
I think that just has to be a culture change. Look, like Colorado is a very libertarian right to work state. It's just our culture. Mm-hmm. And I think what we have to do is either just get a lot of these businesses to back off of testing for drugs, which is going to be hard. I mean, the drug test lobby is huge.
Well, they should be able to test for drugs, but I think it's the way they're testing for them and what they're looking for.
Well, it's not
to
even
test.
that. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, look, you shouldn't be able to fire someone for being gay. You shouldn't be able to fire somebody for being too attractive or ugly or fat. No, this is the actual thing. There was an article, like a news story about
somebody
a woman
got fired for being too attractive.
Yes, because her boss was sexually harassing her, and he's like, "I have to fire you. You're too hot." And she lost that case in court, actually. She sued him. And
Because you know what? Nobody feels bad for a hot girl complaining.
you should also not have to be fired for something you can't control.
That's fine. She can't control it, but you know what? She's a hot girl. She'll get a job somewhere else.
Oh, Jesus, David, that's such white male privilege.
That's not white male privilege.
Yes,
that's hot girl privilege.
No,
Whether
that's
you're
male-
black, Hispanic, white, Asian, if you're hot,
She's being discriminated against because she's hot. Are you kidding me?
I am not going to feel bad for her being discriminated against because she's too hot. I would feel bad for somebody being discriminated against because they're too ugly for a job.
Discrimination is wrong, period.
It is wrong, period. I'm not saying it's not wrong, period, but I'm just saying there's more people to feel bad for in discrimination that are more at the head of the line
That's like
than
saying,
the hot girl.
I'm sorry, but you sound like the kind of people who say, I don't feel sorry for somebody who smokes pot. That's their choice.
No,
so I should be able to fire them.
I'm just saying that she's at the back of the line for people I'm going to feel bad for when it comes to discrimination. Sorry, I am.
Oh, my God. You're terrible.
How is that terrible?
Because it's intellectually
How is that terrible
dishonest.
It's not intellectually
yes, it is. It's
dishonest.
principally dishonest, too.
It's not even principally dishonest.
Oh, you are
It's not even. It's actually being pragmatically honest right there.
Yeah,
pragmatically, that hot chick has not been discriminated against for being hot ever in her life before that
So because
time.
her boss
But somebody being discriminated against for using cannabis, for being black, for being Asian, is getting discriminated against on a regular basis, most likely, throughout their lifespan. So yes, no, I don't feel bad about that white woman problem because she's too hot.
Oh, Jesus
Because
Christ.
it's one time.
It's not her fault. Her boss can't control himself. It's like
She
saying,
doesn't deserve the conversation.
That is like saying, I don't want to look at that fat, ugly person. I'm going to fire
No, it's
them.
not. It's the exact opposite.
No, it isn't. He said, I can't control myself around
Because
you.
that fat person is getting discriminated against way more in society than this hot chick is. That's what I'm saying. It's a matter of scale. She is a minority in the point of being discriminated against, and that's a good thing for her.
I actually don't agree with that. I think it's there is you're a looksist.
I'm not a looksist.
Attractive people get discriminated against. They are considered dumb sometimes. People think that things come easy, because there's people who are haters.
Okay, but that
hater
again,
syndrome.
this is a
You sound like a hater.
This is a white person problem you're talking about. That's like saying
I
reverse
didn't say
racism.
what race you.
Chris, please.
That's
please
racist to
pipe in.
assume what race
is that
she is,
not
dude.
like saying reverse racism? That's like a white person saying, "I'm discriminated against because I have all the money and all the power in the world. Please feel bad for me." Boo hoo hoo hoo. No, I'm sorry. It's
I didn't realize there was laws ever against ugly people being able to vote and being segregated.
There's
from
no
the
laws against
good-looking
hot people being able to vote and being segregated.
No,
That's
but
what
I'm
my
saying
point
that
is.
anytime you discriminate against somebody for something they can't control, that's wrong.
Yes.
Regardless.
It is wrong.
Back to the point.
On the level of wrongness, she's at the bottom of all those discriminations.
You shouldn't be able to you shouldn't be able to fire people for things that do not directly affect their job performance. I don't care what the reason is.
Correct.
Okay?
I agree. I do
So
agree
unless
with that.
you can demonstrate that cannabis use directly affects someone's job performance or their attractiveness directly affects their job performance, then you shouldn't be able to fire them.
Well, I guess if she was a stripper, but then she needs to be hot for that, doesn't she? Oh, no, that she doesn't. We're talking about strippers.
I don't know. Is it a Tuesday afternoon stripper at Shotguns?
It depends on what shift.
It depends on the shift.
Oh, see now who's discriminating.
That's not discriminating. It's a joke.
I know.
God, you are a looksist. You're a hater.
I'm not a.
I think you took a little sip of
I'm pretty
Haterade
sure
this
most
morning.
people listening to this show right now would agree with me that they're going to feel less bad for the hot person being discriminated against.
Because at the
than
end of the day,
black person.
No,
being
because at the end of the
discriminated
day, this is not just it's apples and oranges. Because at the end of the day, and let me explain. It's a sexist thing too. Because no man ever would be fired. Or even anyone would think it's okay if they said, "Oh, he's just too attractive. As a female boss, I cannot keep my hands off of him." That woman would get laughed out of court. That guy would totally win his lawsuit if he sued.
Well,
you would say, "You can't fire me for that." And I think that it is sexist to sit there and say that, I'm a dude, I can't control myself. It's putting the own.
I didn't say it wasn't sexist.
Issue.
Look, you got to understand. I'm not saying it's not wrong. I'm not saying it's not sexist. I know we're not even talking about
sexism is
cannabis
wrong,
anymore.
and so I do feel sorry for a woman who is abused and fired because of sexist reasons.
I didn't even
firing
say I
somebody
don't feel
for being
that.
attractive.
All I said was
is a
I don't
sexist
feel
reason.
that bad for the
It's
hot
a
chick.
sexist reason.
I'm sorry.
It's still a sexist reason. It's sexist.
It's not I would say the same thing if it was a hot dude. I'd be like, I don't feel that bad for the hot dude who just got fired because he was too hot. If that happened, I would say the same thing.
Yeah, but that there,
that's a white person discrimination
because
problem.
that right there is actually more akin to the white person. Because when you talk about sexism, men are predominantly more privileged than women. So when a woman is fired for a reason,
okay, then
womanly reason, which is being
I feel
hot.
worse for a woman who being fired because she's considered ugly than a woman being fired because she's hot. Because
they're both sexist reasons.
No, I didn't say they weren't both sexist reasons. I just said I felt more bad for the ugly woman because most likely she might get discriminated against for being ugly more and more. The hot chick is not living with this discrimination weight on her shoulders that she carries around with her. She goes into the next job, she wears a low-cutting outfit, and she gets hired.
Yeah, women are constantly judged on their looks all the time.
I
We're
agree
subjugated by our looks.
And she's going to be judged for the fact that she has good looks, so she's lucky.
It's not. It's her sexuality, which is being abused and judged and used as a reason to fire her, and that is wrong. You can't have it both. It's not having it both.
You can't say, treat me as a sexy person, but then treat me...
Who said treat her as a sexy person? She can't help being hot. It just oozes off of her.
Oh,
that's not her fault. Look, you are sexist.
I'm not sexist,
You're sexist
at all.
Sexist things.
No, not at all. There's nothing about what I'm saying that's sexist. It's what it is relative discrimination. That's all I'm talking about. Relative discrimination. It's relatively, she is very rarely discriminated
against. Relative discrimination to David typically means which cousin he will or will not make out
I don't
with.
even have any cousins. Don't even have the cousins. That's all right, though. But, hey, look, we have to go. I didn't want to end it on a little argumentative note.
It's not argument. You're wrong.
I'm not wrong at all.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong. I think most people out there would feel the same way as me, I believe. They would. They would. I think they would. They'd be like, I don't feel that bad for this chick. I really don't. I don't feel bad for her.
Sexism is sexism. It's just wrong, period.
It is. I agree. I didn't say it wasn't. I was just saying relatively I feel more bad for
I'm not talking
else.
about attractivism. I'm talking about sexism. Difference.
Again, I agree with you. I'm just saying I just don't feel that bad personally for her. I really don't. We're going to let this go. I'm just going to end this on, hey.
I think you're speaking from a point of view of male privilege. I know.
You're still going with this because you want to get the last word.
All right, I'll stop.
I know. You know what? You can get the last word on Facebook. Okay. I just want to say Happy Cannabis Independence Month. I think we should call it the month.
I think there should be a tradition every year that people line up on the first, celebrate.
To commemorate the freedom of cannabis.
Like a Black Friday kind of a thing.
But we just call it Green Wednesday. Well, it can't be Green Wednesday every time.
Maybe you just call it Green Wednesday, and it's just the first Wednesday of every month.
Green Wednesday.
Or not Wednesday every month, but every January. First Wednesday every January.
First Wednesday of every January. That's better than
Yeah, celebrate Green Wednesday.
Yeah, that might be fun.
It could be a fun tradition.
It could be.
And you're taking a stand and you're saying, this is me standing up for my freedom. This is me, putting it out there that I smoke cannabis and I don't want to be in the shadows anymore. I'm out. I'm proud. I'm also high. Yeah.
I like it.
Yes.
I like it.
All right.
All right. Well, until next week, peace, love, and...
Happiness, you sexist. Happiness.
Oh, my God.